I used to have a theory. That theory was that the Type 7 was originally designed to be a large capacity medium ship that was capable of outdoing the Python Mark I for trade, but was ultimately a failure in this regard because an intern at Lakon's design department got the dimensions wrong in relation to the pad it was intended for, meaning that it could only ever land on a large pad. But with the release of this ship, Lakon have now fixed this. This ship is the Type 8 transporter, and right off the bat I'm going to say out of all of Lakon's transporter line, this is by far the most interesting looking one. It's not like the Type 6 or 7, a brick with a few bits tacked on, nor is it like the Type 9, which is essentially a flat brick with bits tacked on. The Type 10 gets a pass here as it's not designed as a cargo ship despite its origins. The name is a bit of an odd choice given the release date. I'd have expected this ship to have the Type 9 designation, with the Type 9 being Type 8. But maybe Lakon have a similar numbering approach with their cargo ships to how Microsoft number their operating systems. But aesthetically, this ship has actual features. The forked front end and the engines that literally need to be moved in order for this ship to land on a pad. There also aren't any obvious missing panels unlike the Type 6. Lakon have also made more effort than Falcon DeLacy did with the Python Mark II in looking good, given that this ship has a few more paint jobs available than the Python Mark II had on initial release, and whilst I love a yellow paint job and the Type 8 has yellow as a default colour, I've gone for this one. It just brings out the ship a little bit more. This isn't traditionally a pretty ship, but I like how it looks. It has Lakon's signature trader cockpit glass, although it doesn't have the best view given the massive forks obscuring a good chunk of visibility. But that's one of the things that makes it look good from the outside, so Lakon giveth with one hand and snatch away with the other. I've said before that trading isn't my favourite career choice in the Elite Galaxy, and I'm sticking to that. But it's been a long time since we had a new trading ship, so I'm going to actually make some effort to see how the Type 8 gets on. Firstly, I hear that Hutton Orbital needs some bio waste. Actually they don't, but since they perpetuate the myth that you get a free Anaconda by simply turning up, I'll drop some poop on their doorstep. It's just a pity I can't set fire to it. Once that's done, I hear my favourite station in the pencil sector needs some rare crockery for some sort of event. I guess a bunch of slightly whiffy Hutton mugs will do, so we'll do that too. And it's gotta be said that on the first leg of the Hutton run I engaged SEO, and like the Python Mark II, the results are looking good. The stability is leaps and bounds above anything else, and whilst it still hammers through fuel like an alcoholic does with booze at a wedding that has a free bar, it seems more frugal than other ships out there, including the Python Mark II. It managed 56,000 light seconds before the temperature hit 100% on the first push, and this only increased when I got a significant distance from the main star, although I've not really optimised the ship for heat dissipation. Once the cargo of stink was dropped off at Hutton, we moved on to the second leg, and whilst I've not really optimised the ship too much for travel, it made reasonably quick work of getting to new growth. At least it would have done if I hadn't got distracted with mapping systems and dabbling in exobiology en route. I'm not sure if it's down to the planets I visited just having less than smooth ground, but the Type 8 did prove to be a bit of a pig to land sometimes. The best approach I found was to drop the landing gear and scrape it along the ground like I scrape out the bottom of a barrel for humorous anecdotes until it found somewhere flat enough to rest, or until the hull started taking damage. Pretty much the same approach I use with my Anaconda. There's one other problem too. Even the shallow ridge under the ship can prevent the use of an SRV. I mean, it will technically deploy, but you won't be getting to move it any further than the distance that you can spit, and well, I wouldn't recommend spitting with your helmet on because it just gets messy and gross. Either way though, hopefully Lakon will release a small change to the ship that makes the landing gear just a little bit taller, although given how tight the Type 8 is on a medium pad, that might be a challenge in its own right. There are two things that the Type 8 does that I feel I should mention. The first is to knock the Python Mark I off the leaderboard for potential cargo capacity in a medium ship, and it's not by a small amount either, beating out the Python by over 100 tons of potential capacity. It doesn't just knock the Python off the top spot, but it absolutely obliterates it. The max cargo capacity is closer to an Anaconda than it is to the Python. The other thing that it does, although mostly through potential capacity, is basically curb stomping the Type 7 into obsolescence. The Type 7 being restricted to a large pad has a hugely reduced potential market, given its inability to dock at outposts and a large number of planetary bases. But the Type 8 has a hugely greater cargo capacity and it still maintains a medium frame, so it can land and trade in all but the most backwater planetary stations in the galaxy. I know the Type 7 has people who like it, and I fully expect to be told why I'm wrong, and why the Type 7 is still a better choice, but for the life of me I just can't see it. The Type 8 is smaller but has more capacity, handles beautifully under SCO boost, has more hardpoints, and feels generally nicer to fly. The only way the Type 7 can stay valid is if Lakon use it to create a Type 7 Mark II or 7.5 that reworks it to have a distinctive and major edge over the Type 8. I could turn to the Type 6 at this point, given that, like the Type 8, it's also a medium trader, but whilst the credits pricing for the Type 8 hasn't been fully released yet, I'm willing to bet that the gulf between the two prices is not even going to be close to a fair fight. To be fair, it probably isn't against a Type 7 either, but I regret nothing in that regard. Plus the Type 6 seems to have a longer jump range when configured properly, and it has more personality than the Type 7, plus, well, it isn't a Type 7. Bringing this ship home from New Growth, there was a slight detour via some Guardian ruins, and I'm not sure what looks more battered at this point, the ruins or my Type 8. But worn paint on a ship that's done the distance is more than just an unkempt appearance, it's a badge of honour. Sure, trading isn't my go-to to whittle away a few hours, but this ship has served its duty well, and truth be told, I've probably made more money on the exploration and exobiology side of things, even though they were side quests in this endeavour. But that's left me thinking, maybe trading isn't the worst thing you can do in the galaxy after all. It's just maybe I'm more suited to more long distance space trucking with a few stops on the way. Why deliver to the local shop when you can deliver goods to a far off land and take in some of the sights, and from where I'm sitting the Type 8 does a mighty fine job of that, although it doesn't have the best range in the galaxy. Totally stripped you can get around 57 light years per jump, but by the time you add in cargo racks and fill them, that number can decrease significantly. But I don't mind that, as it's about the journey with this ship. And if it takes a little longer, then so be it. It's just a pity you can't bring a friend with you to see the sights, but given there isn't a fighter bay and it's not exactly a combat ship, there isn't a lot they'd be able to do anyway. Unless they want to wing up and join in that way, either as a fellow trader or more in a support role. In fact, as far as being a combat ship goes, it's best not to bother unless you'd like a challenge. After all, it's a powerhouse of trade, not a powerhouse of destruction, and I'm fine with that too. We have a galaxy that's full of dedicated deliverers of boom and multi-role ships, and besides, that canopy could be more fragile than my head is in the morning after a few too many beers. In conclusion, this is the ship that finally got me doing a bit more trading. But it also brings about a time to mourn, not because the Type 8 is bad, but because it's possibly the final nail in the coffin of the Type 7 for me. Unless Lakon priced this ship up to need a ludicrous number of credits to artificially create a massive gulf between the two ships, and even so, credits are still fairly easy to come by if you're able to do a few quick exobiology runs in the black, or if you want to make use of two rival factions who want each other dead. So to end this, the Type 7 is dead. Long live the Type 8. That's okay, I never liked the Type 7 all that much anyway. Thanks for watching this video if you made it this far. I'll be getting on with the Beluga review next. Until then, take care, much love, and 07. Thank you. Okay, fine, I'll concede the Type 7 does have a better view out of the cockpit. Hopefully that'll stop some of the Type 7 fans finding me and lynching me for this review.